guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new Justnohoa HOA content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, Uncle lived near an HOA. So, my uncle bought a piece of land and built his house on it several years. Later, several houses were made around him and an HOA was formed. He never joined it because he hated the idea of HO, as the whole problem started when my uncle saw several kids playing in his backyard. Now, my uncle has 7 dogs. 2 are bloodhounds, 1 was a pit bull, and the rest were much, so he was worried that the kids might get bitten by a dog. So, he built a fence around the border of his land. It took him 3 days to finish. However, the day after he finished, he gets a fine from the HOA for building the fence without the permission of the HOA. He ignores it since he is not part of the HOA and the fence is on his land and was not breaking any rules. A week later, someone from the HOA comes to talk to him about the fence, and he says he is not paying the fine because he is not part of the HOA, and he then explains why he built the fence. The HOA apparently thought he had 1 dog and not 7. My uncle says goodbye, thinking they had come to an agreement that the fence was fine, but my uncle would paint it, which he already planned to do. He had just not gotten around to it. The next day, however, he gets several fines, one of which was for his dogs, and another was for the fence. He again ignored it again. Several days later, he buys 2 white paint cans and starts to paint the fence. However, while he is doing it, several people that lived there walked by. Some said hi, others just glared at him as they walked by. He paid them no mind, and after a while several people from the HOA came by to complain about the color he chose. He didn't understand what was wrong. After all, it was white, so he asks what was wrong with it. They said they didn't approve him building the fence, yet alone painting it, and they proceeded to say that he has to tear down the whole fence by the end of the week and then request for permission to build the fence again. He refuses and says again that he was not part of the HOA. This turns into an argument where his dogs are brought up, and by the end of it, they were threatening his dogs. By this point, there was a small crowd gathering watching, so my uncle calms himself down, picks up his paint, and goes back home. 3 days later, while he was walking around the inside of the fence, he finds several pieces of bacon covered in a white powder. When he picked them up, he realized they smelled like a chemical, and he realized that someone was trying to poison his dogs. Getting super upset, he installs several cameras around the fence to find out who it was, and he actually gets them on camera one night. So he goes to the HOAS meeting that was happening next month. But when he gets there, it turned out that the person trying to poison his dogs was the HOA's president, who, I will call her Karen, he hadn't even met at until then. He still showed the video and even brought some of the bacon as proof and said that if it continued, he would contact the police. After that, the bacon stopped being thrown into his yard, and she was voted out and later moved somewhere else. It wasn't until a month after the Karen moved that he was told the kids he saw playing in his yard were the Karen's kids, and that since he built the fence, they had been complaining nonstop for months that they could no longer play there. My uncle only didn't call the cops immediately because he had some bad run-ins with them when he was younger and didn't trust them to not screw him over. Next one is titled, HOA Minority 20% Obstructionist Owners Going to Get Their People in a Jam. We got a small HOA, maybe 45 rural lots, about 15 houses, the rest vacant. Only thing to do is maintain private dirt road. The last HOA board, who served completely autonomously without proper votes, meetings, announcements, and did not really maintain the private road, sucked everything up. They left no records, an unmaintained road, and almost no money in the bank. Then they sold and moved out. A few other owners, the new board, picked up the pieces and began reassembling the HOA and the road. Budget only $200 per year per house, and needs to be 3 to 4 times that to get road fixed. Meanwhile, about 20% of the owners are obstructing any progress, refusing to pay, and have begun making stupid requests of the board. The latest was they wanted our bylaws. There are none, never have been, something on our list to do, and currently operating under how it's supposed to be done in our state law. A copy of our HOA insurance policy. We never had one until new board took over, and our tax ID number. Taxes had never been filed before this year. They worship the old board, who sold and moved out, mainly because that's where they bought their pot from, and keep saying how good everything was before with no meetings and a shitty road. Funny thing is the 20% is about to discover. If anyone is at fault for what a mess everything is, it's the prior board who is responsible, not the new board. So, when it gets down to it, it's the prior board who sucked it all up who will be responsible. And there is no insurance to protect them. And the other 80% of us are thinking about legal action against them for stealing our money and or failing to maintain any records or maintain our road. But that's being driven by the idiots who keep asking for stupid crap, not our own desire to go after the old people. I don't know why some people choose to grind axes for no reason, because they are too ignorant to figure out how things are supposed to be done, and too ignorant to want to find out. It's like they protest the establishment out of principle. And in an HOA situation, they don't understand that they are the HOA but choose to witch and moan instead of help do something. Next one is titled, You Should Follow Your Own Rules. Not my story but my dad's. Also, not technically HOA but I think in the spirit of it. Let me know if it's not, anyway. So, when I was 2, my dad bought the house I grew up in. It was a major fixer-upper. In total, he probably put $100,000 fixing it up if not more. So, this is where the story comes in. The city building inspector informed my dad that because it was documented that he spent over $50,000 improving his property, he would have to build a sidewalk, but only in front of his house. The experience would come out of his pocket. If anyone injured themselves on the sidewalk that abruptly started and abruptly ended, he'd be responsible for that as well, along with upkeep. It would also cut about 3 feet into the front yard and would permanently lower the property value. Now at the time that this happened, the city had completely renovated the park playground, costing well over the $50,000, and this was public knowledge. Also, the park was within viewing distance of our house and had 2 historic trees within feet of the road. My dad wrote a letter to the mayor's office and worded the cover letter in a way such that they would have to publicly read the entire letter out loud during a public meeting. The letter basically said to lead by example and put in a sidewalk at the newly renovated park, meaning they'd have to cut down the 2 historic trees. The public was outraged. After that, the building inspector basically let him renovate the house however he liked. And there is still no sidewalk. Next one is titled, The HOA is no longer maintaining the fences. So, about a month ago, we got a letter from our HOA informing homeowners that they would no longer be paying to maintain the fences. No idea when they were. For context, my wife and I live in a townhouse development and my brother bought a separate townhouse in the same development. Now, my fence is fine. They painted it in ugly brown, but it cost us nothing, so no big deal. My brother, on the other hand, has his fence collapsing and the HOA solution, as well as to numerous collapsing fences, was to install a board to keep it straight. When my brother moved in, his gate was falling off its hinges and it took him months of complying to get them to fix it. Also, the section with the fence is about 3.5 feet high, and the rest is 5 feet high. Mine is 5.5 feet high all around. But I came up with a solution that my brother likes for his fence. When it finally goes, he'll get a vinyl fence installed instead of a sodden one that needs to be repainted every 3 years or so. Might even go higher than 5 feet, why not? Sadly, mine was only built a few years ago by the prior owners, so it'll be some time before mine collapses. I'm also much closer to the entrance, so that'll need to be replaced much quicker. Next one is titled, New HOA changed the rules after I submitted the required documents for a fence. I purchased a house in a developing community. The developer is still the only voter on the HOA until the end of the development period. The HOA required approval for fences, but they could be wood or vinyl. I submitted a request for a wood fence, and they denied it, saying I needed written approval from rear neighbors that the fences touched. I got that approval and resubmitted. Then they said they needed approval from the side neighbors. I provided that as well on September 27th. Today they denied me, saying it had to be a vinyl fence. When I indicated that the rules said that it could be a wood fence, they said the rules have changed. They sent me paperwork that they had filed on September 29th that said the fences have to be vinyl. We live in a place with frequent hurricanes, and plastic fences do not hold up to strong winds. I have to wait for the houses to all be complete to try and get a vote to change the rule back. What a bunch of a-holes. Next one is titled, What We Get for $530 per month. The title may be a little misleading because $530 includes our utilities, and the HOA portion is considered to only be about 2/3 of that payment. The per month part is correct though. It should be noted that although that includes our utilities, the flat rate stays constant year-round. We have no air conditioning, no washer or dryer, and no television in the living room to be left on all day. On to what we get for that amount: squirrels in the wall. They've straight up told us there's no money in the budget to fix this. Potholes so large the parking lot has become one lane as cars pull off to the side to wait for the only safe path to be clear. Dog poop everywhere. Furniture and mattresses in the dumpsters at any given time. They'd closed the hot tub permanently, demolished damaged carports, not to be replaced, placed a gate at the most convenient entry/exit point that doesn't open except for emergency vehicles. What used to be a 100-yard drive straight out to a light to go left onto the main road is now a pothole-filled meandering nightmare with 2 extra long stoplights. The entire situation is our fault, and we're just between a rock and a hard place. We can't move for reasons. Oh, we also have about 6 roof leaks. We're told to deal with it until it's our building's turn for replacement. It's a condo. Our location is desirable, but the complex is in such a bad state that we have been on the local news a couple of times for HOA drama. My dream is that they will just condemn and some developer will come along and bulldoze the whole place and compensate us for our meager balance. Now I'm grumpy thinking about it all. It's actually a lot more in-depth and worse than this wall of text. It's a running joke within our social circle, and we have a long-standing tension with the management company that includes me documenting everything with photos and keeping email exchanges instead of dealing by phone. It sucks that even after we've learned our lesson, we will still be punished for life. Last one is titled, "This Poor Guy." I inherited a house a few years ago after the passing of my grandfather. The timing was perfect as I had just graduated, and it wasn't that far from the area where I wanted to work. About 2 to 3 years ago, a development company bought a bunch of surrounding property to build a semi-gated community. The fence for the community ends a good few yards away from my property but isn't closed all the way. Now that people have moved in, I've been getting HOA letters about fees, my lawn, and my house paint. I tried emailing the HOA president, but they never got back to me. I crashed the last meeting they had and explained that my house wasn't part of the neighborhood and therefore not part of the HOA. The president and board members tried to say that I was because of how close my property is. It isn't, and I have documentation from the development company and the county saying it isn't. After the meeting, the president emailed back and said that regardless of the particulars, I should still try to conform to the rest of the community because I was bringing property values down. I know that I was very lucky in getting my home, and I don't want to negatively affect others, especially considering the current market. Thanks for listening.